Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Before we get into it, I just want to say if you could subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you get notification about upcoming videos, share with others, comment what you think, and also you can follow me on TikTok, Best Bets with Ryan. Okay, let's get into it. All right, we are playing 1-2 No Limit Hold'em, and we buy in for 500. First hand we pick up ace 10 of diamonds. Early position, we decide to raise to $10. A guy in later position then raises up to $20, a few other callers, and for a min 3-bet, we are never folding. We decide to make the call and go 4-way to a flop. The flop comes king 10-3, 2 clubs, so we have middle pair. We decide to check. The guy who 3-bet pre-flop, that makes a very small bet of $20, about a quarter size bet. The one guy folds. The next guy calls for 20, so we decide to call for 20 also. The turn comes to deuce. The guy in the big blind checks, so we then decide to check. And the aggressor, pre-flop now, decides to also check back onto a river. The river comes to 6, so potential flush draws and straight draws all missed. Guy in the big blind decides to check. So we think about it, and we fire out $100. The next guy thinks about it and folds, and the big blind folds, so we take it down. So you might be wondering why I decided to bet out here fairly large. And the reason is, if one of the guys had a flush draw or a straight draw, they're folding anyway. But if the pre-flop aggressor who made the raise to $20 pre-flop had a hand like jacks or queens, then we were no longer good. I didn't put the pre-flop aggressor on a king or better after he made a weak c-bet on the flop and then checked back the turn. However, he could have had a hand like jacks or queens, or either of them could have had the same hand as I, so we had to make a fairly large bet to make sure we won the hand. All right, so this next hand's a little crazy. It's some monkey balls of a hand, so strap in. We pick up the old 7-6 suited. There's a $5 straddle on, an early position raiser makes it $20. We are calling, and another guy calls. But then the guy in the straddler was short stacked and had $82 and just goes all in. Ugh, we didn't even notice that. The initial raiser makes the call for 82. So, I mean, this kind of sucks. We probably should have just thought of letting this one go. However, the guy who raised and the guy behind us especially were pretty deep stacked. So we think about it for a little while. We were thinking about folding, but folding's no fun. And folding's no fun for the channel. So we sigh and we put in the call for another 62. Then the guy in the big blind, who was also deep, decides to make the call as well. The flop comes 6-8 deuce, and the guy in the big blind decides to donk lead out for $100. Ugh. The next guy makes the call for 100. So what the hell do we do here? There's now $529 in the pot. Yeah, there's just way too much in the pot for us to really fold right now. It's just that we're committing so much of our stack with just second pair, and we're kind of wondering what the hell everybody has at this point. So we decide to call and at least see a turn card here. The turn comes to jack of diamonds. The big blind checks, and then the next guy decides to just rip it all in for about $158. What do we do now? There's just so much money in the pot, and I think given the pot odds, like, we almost have to call. The thing is, we're probably behind at least one of them, and we have a guy in the big blind who has us covered. And then what if he goes all, and then we have to commit the rest of our stack, and it's just over. We have over 300 or so dollars, so we think about it for a little while and we end up just folding. So the guy in the big blind sighs and ends up making the call, and the river comes a deuce. The guy who made the call in the big blind had 6-4 offsuit, just a pair of sixes, and the guy who went all in had ace queen high. So I folded the best hand? Are you kidding me? I would have ended up shopping with that guy just due to the run out. We would have both had a pair of sixes. But I was pretty pissed after that one. I mean, what planet are we playing on right now? We got guys calling $80 with 6-4 offsuit, leading out for 100. We got guys calling with ace queen high for 100. And then we got guys like us folding the best hand. We're more upset right now than Amber Heard. All right, the next hand we pick up ace 3 in the big blind in a multi-way limped pot. Flop comes ace 3-5 smash. We check. However, everyone else checks. God damn it. The turn comes another ace. Bingo. Someone bets 5. We make a little raise to $10. And 3 other players call the min raise to $10. So 4-way to a river. All right, so the river comes a 4, which is actually a pretty good card for us because now someone can have pocket deuces, pocket 4s, trips, straights, lower full houses, 6-7s for straights, anything like that. So we decided to bet $80 and overbet, thinking someone might have some of that. But all 3 other players all fold. What? Now I'm starting to get pissed like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he's roid raging. What are you doing there? Why are you folding? I'm a cop, you idiot. Okay, that last one didn't really make sense. But on to the next hand. All right, next hand we pick up ace 10 of hearts on the button. A few limpy limps, so we had to charge them, and we size up to $15 pre-flop. 3 other callers, so 4-way to a flop. Okay. So the flop comes 10-8 for 2 diamonds. So we have top pair, top kicker. So we decide to size up to $40, about 2/3 pot, because we want to charge the straight draws, flush draws, and weaker tens. So the turn comes a 9. Not the best card, but also not the worst card. He has about $150 left, and there's $140 in the pot. So we just decide to put them all in now. We don't want to bet small and have him call and see a river because there's not too many rivers we're going to want to see and rivers he can represent bluffing. So might as well just get it all in now. But he ends up deciding to fold. He said he had 9-7, which would have been second pair and straight draw. So he said he would have called a smaller bet, but we're happy with just getting it all in and taking down the pot. I think he rabbit hunted and the river would have been an ace of clubs, but whatever. The next hand we pick up ace king offsuit on the button. There is an early $12 raise pre-flop and a caller, so we decide to bump it up and raise to $40. The guy asks how much, we say 40, and he thinks about it, but he ultimately decides to make the call. And as you can see, we have Sammy Farha sitting next to us with his previously lit cigar. We're hoping that his cigar doesn't light our hand on fire because we do want to win a big pot here. The flop comes queen 4 deuce rainbow. He checks, so we decide to bet small to about $30. He ends up making a fairly quick call and onto a turn card. The turn comes in 8, and he checks again. We decide to bet small again, about 1/3 pot to $50. I think on the turn I could have bet a little bit bigger, but I was just putting him on a smaller pair or some low suited connector or something like that. And if I decided to bet again on the turn, he would just believe that his pair was no good. He also made a comment that the $50 bet was like a bet that was begging to be raised and thought we had like maybe a set of queens. So, all right, guy, I'll take it. So he thinks about it, but ultimately ends up making the fold. And we take down a decent-sized pot. All right, the next hand we decide to do a double board PLO $10 bomb pot. So 10 players to the flop. We have a pair and straight draws on both boards. But the flop got checked around all the way, so onto a turn card. On the turn, we hit the nut straight and the second nut straight. So we decide to bet the pot for $100, and 2 people call. So both rivers sorta kind of blow as both possible backdoor flushes get there, so we check. But luckily, both players check behind also. We did have the best hand on the top with the straight. However, the guy on the bottom board had 8-9 for the higher straight, but we ended up splitting it overall, making a little bit. So our phone ended up dying, so we have to use this app to show this next hand. This was a $5 straddled pot, which then got raised to 25. We did call and go to four-way to a flop. This isn't a hand I prefer to play, especially in early position. I prefer ace-5 suited as an ability to make a straight also, but this hand ended up getting checked all the way around. So the turn brings a king. The small blind leads out for 35. The next guy calls, I call, and the player who was the pre-flop raiser also calls. So the river brings the 5 of hearts. So we have the nut flush. Nice. So the small blind who let out before now checks. The guy next to him checks. So I feel I have to bet here, hoping that someone is a king or a lower flush. I go for a $200 bet, and then the next guy folds, and the small blind calls. So when he just calls, I'm thinking, nice, he has a lower flush, and I'm going to have the best hand here. However, he calls and then flips over pocket 5s for a full house? What? So he bet the turn with pocket 5s, hits his full house in the river, and then checks? Jeez. I was a little worried about a full house. However, everyone checked, so I feel like I had to make a big bet. Plus, that was the guy who we overbet bluffed with the ace-jack high in the last video, so I was hoping he'd pay me off with worse. Well, we're down tons and we got to make it back. Let's go. All right, so the last hand, we have king 3 in the small blind in a multi-way limped pot. So we decide to call and go to a flop. So we flop 2 pair and check. The next guy bets $12. It folds around to us, and we decide to raise to $36, and he calls. The turn comes a queen of diamonds, not the best card as it brings a possible flush. So we check, but he decides to check back. The river brings a jack of hearts, so we check, and now he decides to overshove all in for his last $122. So we think about it for a second, and why would he overshove all in when we checked the last 2 streets showing weakness? If he actually had a flush, I think he might have bet less trying to get the call. And if he had a hand like king queen or king jack, he would have raised those pre-flop. So we decide to make the call, and he shows jack 8 for the lower 2 pair, which essentially was a bluff, as he said, because he put us on a higher 2 pair. So a nice call by us and a nice pot. So we were in for 1,000, out for 780, ending up down $220. That's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one, and please subscribe to the channel.